What's up, everybody? It is Izzy. Welcome back to the Q&A. I am done with my active rest, and with that active rest finished, the Q&A resumes. So let's get to it. Should you get better at bent over rows before you move on to chest supported rows for overall back development? I don't think we need to gatekeep chest supported rows. Personally, no. However, if we're talking about like a rank beginner, it's very useful for them to get good at the basic big movement patterns because everything is a regression from there. Like if you can do a proper barbell bent over row, you can certainly do a machine chest supported row or a machine chest supported T-bar row with very good form because it's easier. Ultimately, what's going to determine which row technique you should use is whatever gives you personally the best stimulus to fatigue ratio. And sometimes when you're a beginner, stimulus to fatigue ratio is literally just whatever gives you the most stimulus because nothing fatigues you very much. So that said, I think you should be able to do both so that you can determine which one is better for you. And if you only start with chest supported versions, you won't even know how to do a free weight one well. How do you deal with regret? Well, personally, I don't really see a lot of point in wallowing in regrets when you're young because you still have so much time to create new, better futures. So when you're sitting in the past worrying about what could have been, you could be spending that energy doing something towards creating a new future. And unless you're like 80 years old and near your deathbed, you still have plenty of time to create a better future than the one that you could have had from the situation that you're regretting anyway. So I think the way that I deal with regret is figure out what it is about the situation that you regret. Is it the outcome? Well, what could you have done better to get a different outcome? Keep that lesson for next time and then just move on. Build a new future. How fast should a recreational lifter cut? You should lose between 0.5 and 1% of your body weight per week, aiming for more towards the middle of that range. If you have a lot of trouble adhering to diets because you get too hungry and you cheat on your diet or you binge or whatever, then aim for closer to 0.5% a week. Everybody has different levels of adherence towards different diet difficulties. How comparable do you think Kelso shrugs are to an upper back row? Not super comparable because you're not bending your elbows. So it's kind of similar to being like, how comparable is a chest fly to a chest press? Well, if your goal is to target a certain particular muscle, it's fine because you're isolating one of the actions out of the movement to do an isolation movement, right? What are your thoughts on using an additional bench for leg support when Larsen pressing? I don't really have any thoughts on this because you didn't ask me a question, right? So I'm like left to just guess what you're getting at. I guess if you are doing Larsen presses purely for hypertrophy, putting your legs up on a second bench could potentially increase the stability of the movement a little bit and make their hypertrophy results better. But if you are doing Larsen presses for carryover to your competition flat bench, or maybe not even competition, you just want a stronger bench press, I think you will probably get more carryover, completely eliminating your leg drive. So just depends what you want. Advice for teenagers who lift weights. The biggest thing is that you're going to try to rush things. You're going to try to rush everything. You guys are all impatient as a group. But another thing is that even though it's a small age range of only 6 years or 7 years, from 13 to 19, developmentally, there's a huge difference between being 19 and 13. If you're on the younger half of your teenage years, don't go on a diet. Don't try to lose weight and lose body fat. Just focus on eating good, healthy foods, micronutrient dense, until you're full. Worry about dieting later and don't rush anything. I am completely sedentary outside of the gym and I don't want to spend 2 hours a day walking around to get the necessary step count. How much cardio should I add? This completely and totally depends on what your goals are. The answer could be 0. It depends on why do you want to add cardio. Are you trying to increase your longevity? Or do you want to have better work capacity for your training? Is it just because someone told you that's what you should do and you feel like guilty and you're like a morally bad person if you don't do cardio? You have to know what your goal is and then measure metrics related to your goal, right? So for example, an enhanced bodybuilder might monitor their blood pressure and resting heart rate to see if they're doing enough cardio to stay healthy. When training to failure, I often have to drop 15% or more load for the second set. Is that normal? If anything, that's like less than what I have to do on most things. So yes, it's completely normal. I can always tell when someone's like relatively new to the Q&A because this is like one of the questions that they ask. Everybody always wants to know about rep drop-offs. And yes, it's normal when you train to failure that you are going to have to reduce the load. Depending on what rep range you're working in, higher rep range, you're going to have to drop it more. In lower rep ranges, you're going to have to drop it less. But anywhere from like 10 to 25% is typical. What does it mean to be a better bodybuilder? Is it size, leanness, and proportions? I mean, yes. Yes, that's basically it. Being a better bodybuilder means having more muscle and coming in more shredded and bringing up your weak body parts so that they are more in proportion with the rest of your body parts. Now, you can't change the shape of a muscle. You really can't change your bone structure. You can't really manipulate your waist or anything like that. So the only other element that can really help make you a better bodybuilder is, well, there's symmetry, I guess, but it's posing, presentation. You can become a better poser as well. Alrighty, folks, that is it for today's Q&A. I will be back probably not in 2 days, probably in 3 days. I think I might do 2 days off in a row here just because my pecs are extremely sore at like the attachment by the tendon. And whenever I get pec tweaks, that's where I get them, right there next to the attachment site. So I'm a little bit sketched out by that. And I have absolutely zero desire to pick up a pec tweak in week 1 of my quote-unquote blast. So with that said, let's do the ads. If you guys enjoy the Q&A, please like the video when it comes out on YouTube, or you can become a more substantial supporter for $1 a month on Patreon. If you'd like to work with me directly for coaching, shoot me a DM on Instagram for fastest response. And to see my ebooks, go to my profile on Instagram. There's a link in my bio. And for YouTube, check the description box for the link to the ebooks. So with that said, until next time, enjoy your weekend, folks. Peace.